Welcome to the first Conference of Natural Resources and Development.
Very interesting, extremely interesting conference we had the last 3 days. So we all heard probably about, I don't know, 80, 60, 70 different contributions, and it was a very rich conference in very different aspects. And so I would say for me personally, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from different regional experiences, from different thematic issues which I did not know before. I think the most important thing is that we are open-minded to try to understand what our colleagues. I think that issue, the food, water, energy, security issue, is an issue which should be considered under different perspectives, and we should. What is the contribution, or what might be the contributions from social sciences? And one specific question I asked me during the last days, we had a lot of contributions focusing or dealing with modeling, with more quantitative approaches. I think that is very clear and it is understandable because of the composition of the audience. But my question mark would be, what is the contribution of more qualitative approaches from the social sciences to the questions we discussed? There would be a lot of interesting contributions, and perhaps for the future we could discuss how qualitative approaches, and I think in the last session we had some, an actor-oriented perspective is extremely important, an actor-oriented perspective which is sensible for the questions of let's say, power relations. I think that is a very important issue. We had this morning a very interesting paper on the governance issues in protected areas, and I think the question of transdisciplinarity and transdisciplinary research. And I think this is a very important point because it has to do with our own understanding of what we are doing, what we would like to do in the future, how we understand and define science. And I think that is a challenge we have to deal with every day as scientists, and I think that the idea of transdisciplinary research should be an idea which we should. So, once again, thank you very much and congratulations for that very interesting conference.
And we could not see any problem, which for sure happened in the underground. Later on you could tell me about that. And another aspect which I would like to focus is that methodological aspect. I hear a lot about models. I think modeling is very important, especially in hydrology. Especially if we talk about nexus, water, energy, and food. Three very complex, especially I'm an agricultural engineer, and I know about the complexity of nature and that what a farmer has to overthink when he uses his resources. Think about the economic conditions he had to integrate. It's like integrated water resources management. We have to try to approach in a scientific way. And here it was really a very broad spectrum of contributions, students, scientists, including the social disciplines. For agricultural engineer, it's always or sometimes difficult to understand the social arguments. Yeah? But I understand you very good, especially. Means we have to find new methodology, which can approach that complexity of nature and that three areas of water, food and energy, all these three areas are in a dynamic evolution. Think about bringing together the abilities of a dog who has very good smell and the ability of an eagle who can see the mouse on the earth from a distance of 2 kilometers. And they have difficulties to understand each other. The soil scientists, he has to look on the soil but what is the soil without water and without plant? You cannot produce with the soil to enter in the brain of the other discipline of the scientists of other disciplines. That is the future. If we talk about nexus, we talk only about nexus if we don't find new methodology. That is.
As you said, there's a great deal of varieties of science, and all of them have complex methods and models for understanding different systems. The part that I didn't hear in learning and hearing all of these talks was how those systems come together and how we share that data across policymakers. I think we need to take another few steps forward and think about how we start with the conclusions of all of those papers and spend 10 minutes talking about what happens next. What are the next steps after you get to those scientific conclusions? And I think the conference was focused on water, food, and energy, that nexus. It seems to me shelter is the fourth leg of that chair. And we talked about it somewhat, but we can't really talk about sustainable communities without shelter. And I think we have to keep that. I think it's wonderful that people are sharing across universities. The next step is that we need to be in the same room with the policymakers. I mean, that as scientists, as academics, this conversation needs to take place in a different venue that isn't just academic. Really, I just would say I really like the idea of transdisciplinarity. I think it echoes the theme of what you were trying to do. It's not just interdisciplinary, but it is across countries, across disciplines, across actors in trying to improve and better our future urban life.
Nexus means so much more than just the interaction or interdisciplinarity of the scientific community, which we are. No? Most of us here are from the scientific community. I think what is really even a bigger challenge is now to think about the nexus between the scientific community and the practitioners, the science policy dialogue as society. And I think that looking at the challenge that we face even in understanding each other as scientists, now to have a dialogue that is fruitful between those who really do things, those are the actors in society from private, public sector and non-governmental sector and the scientific community, that will be even a bigger challenge. And communication requires energy, it requires resources, and I think there's a high demand for communication. We have seen that in the breaks. Whenever there was a coffee break, everybody had not even talked to a fraction of the people they wanted to meet, and that is a good sign, I think. And perhaps, as you said, in the next time, leave more space for this kind of exchange to get to know each other and to create a, let's say, a structured way, an efficient way of interacting between the different knowledge spheres and hopefully then also with the practitioners. That could be a good idea for the future.
In this conference, my name is Kurt Klein. I'm an agricultural economist from Canada. And I've been around a long time. I used to be a farmer. I was a farmer for 10 years before I went back to university, and I've continued on with the farm, so I'm very knowledgeable and appreciative of all the different disciplines that a typical farmer has to do. And I've also worked, of course, in several developing countries. So the population has increased 3 times in my lifetime. And when I graduated from high school, they just passed 3 billion. Now we're past 7 billion, and we're apparently going higher. It looks like 9.5, some people say 10 billion people. A lot of people to feed. We're reading about what was mentioned here yesterday, the advancement of technology. We certainly will need more agricultural productivity to feed the extra 2 or 3 billion people who are coming. There's a lot of consumer resistance among the richest people in the world to slow down agricultural technology, biotechnology, genetic engineering, not let this technology come through. Well, it's fine. In the last 2 or 3 years, they are now using 120 million tons of corn to make ethanol to burn in the car. It takes the same amount of corn to produce 75 liters of ethanol, about the amount you put into your tank one time. The amount of corn that it takes to make that much ethanol to fill up your tank once will feed a person 2,200 calorie per day diet for a whole year. Agricultural country. We produce only about 40 to 45 million tons a year. 3 times Canada's entire crop is being used for ethanol production in the United States every year. And
to scientists, every problem looks like its solution must be science. And I am going to reflect what we've heard from almost every speaker today, that the bringing together of fine scientific minds, established ones and emerging ones, is excellent, and it's a start. And I must add my congratulations to the team who organised everything for the wonderful conference, bringing people together so well and so pleasantly. It's a start, but it's only a start, because we make no progress until the scientists who think the answer to everything is a hammer, is science, start to meet the politicians, the business people, and particularly the media. But it's only a beginning, and the questions that you need to ask yourselves are, if you're not in rooms meeting politicians, meeting media, and meeting policymakers, you're only doing a small part of your work. Your work is not completed until it has been shared. That's all I have to say.
Welcome to the first Conference of Natural Resources and Development.